The 2015 World Tour season began at the Tour Down Under with a decently strong escape, containing breakaway and TT specialists plus a reasonable GC contender. Perhaps the pedigree made the pack keep the move close, or maybe the escapees were playing them. They didn't seem sluggish at the first sprint or the day's only KOM, taken by Uni SA's Jack Bobridge, securing the lead in that competition. Despite some iffy cornering, the bunch was in no hurry to make the catch, but the non-appearance of Marcel Kittel's Giant Alpecin team and possibly some non-great GPS data saw the quartet come into the closing kilometers with enough time to win, if they could cooperate. But with the KOM lead in hand and not even riding for his real professional team, Bobridge had little to lose from a late catch and peeled off the front for good at 2.3k to go. ATIC's Quickstep got the pack close in the final K, but Bobridge launched early, putting down power on an uphill where he could make the most room in the shortest time and letting a monster tailwind protect that margin as he cruised to the win. Stage 2 saw another threatening move left a little more space. The composite team leading GC wasn't going to be able to dictate tempo, but fortunately Sky and IAM Cycling eventually helped UniSA shoulder the load, and it was all back together by 24k to go. BMC's Danilo Viss and Trek's Calvin Watson made use of a roundabout and some motorcycles to put together a convincing flyer, but an uphill drag finish gave far too many teams potential winners. Cannondale Garmin led out from 3k for Nathan Haas, but it left him on the front just outside 300 meters to go, which is a really long way. Haas did succeed in creating a little gap for the front contenders, and I think that left Movistar's Juan Jose Lobato just enough space to build up a head of steam. He comes ripping around the outside, perhaps aided unwittingly by a twitch from teammate Gorka Izagirre, to take the stage with enough time to call his sponsors and thank them. Bobridge finished with the leaders to hold his GC advantage, producing another committee chase chaired by Team Sky on stage 4. The initial break of 4 fell back to 3 at 38k, then 2 at 17k, then just Drapak's Will Clark a few moments later. The pack let him dangle to 8k out, and Sky, Giant Alpecin, and BMC kept the pace high into the uphill finish. Geraint Thomas and Simon Geschke put in big pulls to thin the group and shell Bobridge until a Richie Porte counter dropped the heads of state to just 4. But under the red kite there was a lot of looking around. No one was in a mood to tow, allowing Evans' teammate Rohan Dennis an armchair ride as the rest of the pack sealed things up, which he used to attack almost immediately afterwards. Only Age Desert's Domenico Pozzovivo took him seriously at first, and by the time Giant Alpecin's Tom Dumoulin reacted with 300 meters to go, Dennis was clear, taking the win and the GC lead, while Evans snapped around Dumoulin for the BMC 1-2. Absolved of leadership, Bobridge hit out for more hour record training or KOMs. It's kind of hard to tell which, but it seemed to go well either way. Things came back together so OGE's Daryl Impey could start his points campaign and retake 3 of the 22 seconds he'd lost to Dennis before another breakaway went, pulled back by Sky at 9k to go. Astana tried to launch Luis Leon Sanchez a K later, but an OGE and IAM-led peloton pulled them back, drove the pace into the final K, and promptly disappeared, leading to a sloppy across-the-road sprint. ATIC's Quickstep came closest to an actual lead-out, but Gianni Meersman fails to launch. Looks like he might have had shift trouble, forcing a bit of a start-stop from Drapak's Wouter Wippert. But Steele Van Hoff, another cog in the UniSA composite, pedals steadily and keeps cool until right about 100 meters to go, where he unleashes a sharp burst, putting space on the rest of the bunch all the way to the line. Stage 5, Queen Stage, uphill finish, another Bobridge break, and ominous shots of kites and surf presage a massing of teams at the front because there are very definitely crosswinds. Tinkoff attempted to split things unsuccessfully around 28k out, but it was decidedly friendlier in the break. At least, I think this was a friendly push from Lotto Soudal's Greg Henderson, especially since the time board moto comes up to talk to them a few minutes later about something that sure doesn't seem to be a gap. Oh well, it didn't stop the hand-slaying 3k later. Bobridge held on to secure the KOM title some 44 seconds ahead of an Astana-driven chase that simply did not let up, eventually forcing a crosswind split 8 kilometers out that contained Evans and race leader Dennis. It was exciting, but it didn't make all that much tactical sense. Even if the move had stuck, the stage still ends with 3k of climbing. OGE and Sky drove the pace into Old Wollonga Hill until Porte launched from curiously far back in the bunch, drawing an immediate reaction. A second acceleration left just the race leader in touch, but Dennis looks like he played it smart, realizing Porte's pace was unsustainable and falling back to a hard tempo he could maintain to the top. Porte would win the stage but claw back only 9 seconds, too shy of what he needed to overtake Dennis for the overall lead. In theory, anything could happen on stage 6, but realistically it's a flattish city circuit, albeit one with a few iffy corners. 2 breaks took up most of the day with a brief interruption for Impey to solidify his points lead. A rare TDU Marcel Kittel sighting came just before the catch with a few laps to go, but the German was caught out behind a crash a few moments later. Lamprey and OGE did most of the lead-out work, but watch Wippert hitch on to IAM's Roger Kluge, shoulder off both Katusha's Rudiger Selig and Heinrich Hausler, the man for whom the lead-out was actually intended, and then just beat out Daryl Impey for this gap along the barriers. Hausler manages to keep the Drapac rider close, but never had a real shot to get around before the line. I'm Cosmo Catalano, and that's how the race was won.